Hello, welcome to session number 3 of our active movement sessions from PACES Sheffield and myself, Connections Neuro-Disability Services. So hopefully you've seen sessions number 1 and number 2. Number 1 was a series of simple seated upper body movements, and number 2 was some simple lower body movements in a seated position. So today, session number 3, we're going to be doing some standing up activities and then some standing activities as well, just very simple ones to start you off. Hopefully you've enjoyed the previous sessions and hopefully you're building on those week on week with us. If you've got any requests or anything you feel like you'd like us to be offering to you, please get in touch and let us know. And make sure you share the information. Make sure if you think you know someone who might benefit from these sessions, please do let them know about us. So first of all, just for those of you who haven't seen this before, I'm Jules McDonald and I'm a conductor, which means I practice conductive education, which is an expert education and rehabilitation approach for people with movement disorders. So these sessions aren't a conductive education session, but they're active movements and they're for people who've got motor disorders. So that can be something like cerebral palsy, a head injury, a brain injury, a stroke, multiple sclerosis, similar things to that. First of all, just to say that, as I say every session, please be careful and work at your own level. Taking part in these tasks are at your own risk, and also do just check with a medical professional to check that they think you are at a suitable level of health to be taking part in this sort of activity before you start, just to keep yourself safe. A couple of things to mention because we're working in sitting and standing today. Footwear first of all. Now I'm working barefoot. If you're able to and comfortable working barefoot, please do. Just make sure that you're not going to be on a slippy surface and you're not going to wear socks and slip and things like that. So make sure you're safe in that respect. Also, just be careful that you, if you usually stand using a splint, an AFO, supportive shoes, anything like that, if you feel more secure and that is your best standing position or your best supported footwear, then please go with that. Go with what feels most comfortable for you. Similarly, equipment-wise today, so we don't need anything really specialist. You need a chair for you to sit on. A dining room chair will be fine. As before, you can use a wheelchair for these activities. You need to be able to move into standing from your wheelchair. So if, for example, you have a pommel or a foot plate, try and move them out of the way and remove the pommel to try and make sure you've got space to move forward and move up into standing. Similarly, when you do come into standing, you'll need, if you need to, if you're not a steady stander, you might need something to support yourself. So whether that's a stick, you might usually just use one stick, or you might have two. You may have a walker. You can use a rail in your house if you've got any rails on the wall. You could use you could even use a turntable. A transfer table if someone was there to help you secure it. I've got things like this that we use in my usual practice of conductive education to hold on to that are really quite handy. So I may demonstrate a little using one of those. But if you don't need to support yourself in standing and you can stand independently, then by all means do. Just be aware that we'll be moving our balance a little bit in that position, so you might need something nearby. Similarly, it would be sensible to have someone around whilst you're doing these tasks if you are a little unsteady on your feet, and you may need someone to help you stand anyway, just to help you to get up onto your feet. So go with what you know and what works well for you. Obviously try and challenge yourself, but make sure you're comfortable doing so before you start. Okay, so if we get started, I'm just going to first of all encourage you to find a correct sitting position. Like we have done every week, we're going to say what we're doing whilst we're doing the movements. Please join in with that at home. If you're non-verbal, try to make some sort of noise if you're able to, or try to say it in your head. A carer perhaps could verbalise the tasks for you as well, and that would really help. But using your voice to control your movements is a really helpful tool, so I'm going to use that through today's session, and please try and join in with that at home. The first thing we need to do is correct our sitting posture. So whether you're in a wheelchair on a dining room chair or on a therapy bench, just make sure your feet are directly under your knees and your hips all at 90 degrees. I've talked about this in the other sessions as well, but if you need, you could always tuck something under your bottom if you're a little bit low on your chair, or if you're a bit high on your chair, you could always tuck something under your feet, maybe a telephone directory or something like that would help. Okay, so feet flat. I put my feet flat. I put my hands down. My back is straight, and I sit straight. I sit straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. Right then, so what we need to do first of all is get some oxygen into our lungs. So I want you to do is we're going to, if you're able to, lift your arms up as we breathe in, and you're going to breathe in through your nose. And then if you're able to, bring your arms down and breathe out through your mouth. Now, if you can't lift your arms at the same time, just do the breathing and really try and get your lungs moving and the oxygen pumping around your body. And what that'll help do is kind of invigorates your body, gets it ready for movement, energizes you, and actually lifts your mood, as well as calming your body a little if you need it to. So what we need to do when we breathe out, by the way, is to lean forward and blow out. Okay, so closing your lips, I lift my arms up, I breathe in, arms down, breathe out, and come right forward if you can. Close your lips again, arms up, breathe in, arms down, breathe out, close your lips, breathe in, arms down, breathe out, and one more time, close your lips, breathe in, arms down, breathe out, and then bring yourself back up into a seated position, breathe in, and then just try and let your breath go and return to a kind of natural breathing position. So hopefully that's kind of woken you up a little bit, got your brain engaged and got your body engaged in what we're doing. Just in case you've lost your position, maybe slumped a little during those movements, correct yourself again, make sure you're symmetrical as you can be, shoulders back, head up, and I sit straight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lovely, well done. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare ourselves for standing. There's lots of things built into the movements that go into standing that we're breaking down into small tasks. And the first one is what we're going to call shuffling forward on the chair. And that's about moving one bum cheek at a time forward on the chair towards the edge of the seat. And that way you're nearly ready to bring yourself up into standing. But it's quite a tricky movement, so we're going to just break that down into its own task and do it a couple of times. I'm going to show you first of all, just because it's a little unusual, and I'll show you from the side as well. Excuse me, if I just move the sticks to one side. So when we do the shuffle forward, what we're going to do is we're going to lift one hip up and bring it forward, keeping your body facing straight, and the other hip up and forward. And you're going to walk your hips forward on the chair till you're over your feet and ready to stand. I'll show you from the side. Lift a hip and forward. Lift your hip and forward. Lift your hip and forward. And the movement is coming up till so your bottom is just perched right on the edge of that chair. Okay? When I say the tasks, I will say your right side, but I will move my left side so that I provide a mirror image for what you're doing, just to make you aware of that at the beginning. That's how it works through all of the sessions, okay? So I move my right hip forward. I move my right hip forward. 1, 2, 3. And I move my left hip forward. Left hip forward. 1, 2, 3. right hip forward, 1, 2, 3, left hip forward, 1, 2, 3, don't fall off the front of your chair as you come forward there, and then we're just going to do that in reverse. We're going to shuffle ourselves back again. So right hip back, 1, 2, 3, left hip back, 1, 2, 3, right hip back, 1, 2, 3, left hip back, 1, 2, 3, that's it. And then when you get back there, just straighten your body up again. These are really useful movements, not just for preparing to stand yourself up, but also for shuffling yourself on a chair. So on your bed, in your wheelchair, if you need to sort of push your bottom back to get really sat up straight in your wheelchair, for example, or you need to shuffle back on the bed before you bring your legs into the bed and lie down at night, this is a really good movement for that. So practice that as often and as many times as you want. And it's a really good little one to sneak into your day, because you transfer out of a chair to go to the bathroom, to go to bed, to get dressed, all sorts of things like that. So try and put that one into a routine, because it's a really good one. So we'll do it one more time on each side. One more time going forward, and then we're going to stop at the edge, ready for the next task after that. So I move my right hip forward, 1, 2, 3. I move my left hip forward, 1, 2, 3. My right hip forward, 1, 2, 3. My left hip forward, 1, 2, 3. Lovely. So you should have shuffled forward now to the point where you're at the edge of your seat. I'm sure you're at the edge of your seat metaphorically as well. So excited about what we're going to do next. So in this position, if you're in a wheelchair, as I said, make sure you've got foot plates out the way or folded up, or if you need to, put something under your feet to stop you slipping, anything like that. Be aware that you are right on the edge of a seat. So be careful if your sitting balance is a little bit precarious at times. Just be aware of that, and be aware if maybe a carer or a helper nearby needs to be close to you. When you're in this position, it's important that you don't sit back on the lower back here. It's important to stay right up on your bum bones here and right through your feet. So the weight should be going right down from your knees, from your hips, down through your feet. So keeping those feet glued to the floor at all times. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do a horse riding movement, which isn't a full stand. It's bringing ourselves into a half stand. I'm going to demonstrate it because there's quite a few different ways you might want to try it. So the basic sort of unsupported version is as follows, where you lean forward, lift your bottom up, and then bring it back down and sit back up again. Now, there's ways you might need extra support to do this. Some of you might not have the balance to do that or the strength in your legs. So that's where you can bring in a piece of equipment. You might want to hold a ladder or a bar in front of you to lift yourself up. If you do that, be aware that you're not pulling on the support that you've got. So what you don't want to do is go like this and pull yourself up. It's really important that you still bring yourself forward and use your legs to push up, not use your arms to pull up. Similarly, if you don't need quite as much as that, you can hold onto the seat you're sitting on and push through your arms a little, holding at the front like so, making sure you've got a firm grip on either side of your legs and pushing up as you lift your bottom up a little. You may need to shuffle slightly further back to be able to get that movement with your hands next to you, but that's another way of doing the task. So I'll stay facing side on so you can see what your body's supposed to do. It might help, as with any of the tasks in this series, it might help if you have a mirror in the room whilst you're doing it so you can see what you're doing as well, because being able to examine your own body's position gives you a lot more feedback about how you're doing it. Or you can video yourself or photograph yourself. You can send them through to us if you like. We'd love to see you joining in. So, having shuffled forward as we did, correcting your posture. So we're not sitting right back on our chair, but we're staying upright on our hips. Our feet are still staying planted on the floor and knees in line with our hips. Shoulders back, head up, and I sit straight. I sit straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So either holding on in front of you or holding on at the side, or if you're not holding on at all, you can just hold your hands together. Okay, leaning forward, I bring my nose forward over my toes and I push up. 1, 2, 3, and I sit down. 1, 2, 3. I'll demonstrate it with the chair now, with the ladder, sorry, to support myself now. So I lift my bottom up, I lift my bottom up. 1, 2, 3, and I sit down. 1, 2, 3, and one more time. This time I'll show you with your hands next to you. I lift my bottom up, I lift my bottom up. 1, 2, 3. Notice how my nose comes right forward over my toes on the floor. And I sit down. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Really good. Like I say, try to remember when you do that to bring your nose right over your toes, because that's the point at which your body begins to bring itself into standing on its feet. The other thing, if you like to make these things a little more challenging, is not only can you push up, but try to hold that position, keeping your back nice and straight, don't round it, as long as you can. Don't go crazy, but give it a few seconds and then bring yourself back down. Really control that sit down, don't let yourself plump back down, try to control it all the way. Lovely, really good. So that's a horse riding move, and that's a really good preparation for standing. So now, since we've prepared so well for standing, we're going to come and stand up. Now, standing up, again, you can use a rail for support if you've got one. You don't need to use support if you don't need support, but be aware of your own balance and don't topple. Use a stick if a stick is useful. Use a rollator or a K-walker if that helps you. Use whatever it is that works for you to come into a standing position. When we do the next couple of tasks, which aren't very many, but they may be quite a lot for you to do in a maintained standing position, feel absolutely free to sit down whenever you need and let your body recover. This is why we do the sessions pre-recorded, so you can pause, rewind, repeat, skip, anything that isn't working for you. Keeping a standing position when standing isn't in your normal sort of heavy use is tricky and will take your body a little bit of getting used to. Your stamina may be quite difficult to achieve with it. So don't worry if it feels hard work. That's good. That shows we're working hard. But just build up gradually the amount of time and the amount of standing you're doing, as long as it's safe for you to stand and you've had that, you've been told that from a professional. So coming into standing uses a really similar thing to how we did the horse riding. The only thing I will say is you can't keep your hands here as you come up into standing. Of course, they'll get stuck. So you can support yourself in front. You can support yourself with a stick or a rollator or a bar on the wall. If you don't need to, a really good thing to do is to clasp your hands together, because it keeps you nice and symmetrical. Hold your hands if you find a clasp difficult. Make sure if you're doing whatever you're doing, you're keeping yourself really nice and straight. I'm going to show you the stand from the side and from in front so you can see my body from both positions, but I'll show you from the side first of all. Excuse me a second while I shuffle slightly back just so I've got a little more room. So if you need to hold on. Bear in mind you do need to be quite far away so you've got room to stand up. You've shuffled your bottom forward and you're sitting nice and straight, ready to start. So I lean forward, I bring my nose over my toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then push through your whole foot, and I stand up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pulling your bottom all the way in and your shoulders all the way back. Okay, so you're really, really straight and up on your feet as you come up. Okay, I'll just show you. Take a seat if you need while I show you it from the front. I really want you to notice is how straight I keep my body, keeping my shoulders in line, my hips in line, my feet and toes all in line. So we shuffle forward again on that chair, clasping your hands, holding on the support, whatever you need. I lean forward, my nose is over my toes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I lean forward and I stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. And so, as I said, bringing your hips right forward, shoulders right back. I'm just going to shuffle back a little so you can see my whole body in standing. So by all means, practice that sit to stand movement multiple times. You can challenge yourself to maybe up the number of times you can do it, or try to do it with slightly less support. So you're not clinging to the rail, you're just loosely grasping the rail, or you're not using both hands, maybe just one hand to support yourself, if it feels safe to do so, and if there is someone with you, if you need it. So then just a couple of little moves in standing. So when we're standing, the same rules apply of keeping everything nice and straight and in line. So your feet need to be underneath your hips, hip width apart and straight forward. Shoulders in line, make sure your hips stay forward. A lot of people, if you have a movement disorder, may end up slightly hunched here and slightly bent here. Try to make sure that you keep those shoulders back and those hips forward and that chin up as well. Not too high, just up. And I stand straight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. So the first thing we're going to do in standing is a little more of a similar movement to the horse riding, a squat. We're not quite going as far as Joe Wicks with us, but it's our version of Joe Wicks. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend your knees, bring your hips down low, keep your back up, nice and straight. Don't stay completely upright, but don't hunch forward either. Stay up there. And then bring yourself up into standing and straighten your legs, hips forward. When you do so, be aware that your knees need to stay in that midline. Don't let them come in like this. Try not to let them go too wide either. So we're just trying to keep them in line and back up. Okay, so I bend my knees. 1, 2, 3. I hold it there. 1, 2, 3. And I stand up. 1, 2, 3. And I stand straight. 1, 2, 3. I bend my knees. 1, 2, 3. I hold it there. 1, 2, 3. And I stand up. 1, 2, 3. And I stand straight. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. If you need to sit down and rest, please sit down and rest. When you come to standing again, make sure it's slow, controlled, good standing like we did earlier on in the session. Then the last movement in standing, because I expect you're all feeling a little bit weary by now. It's quite a lot of effort and quite a concentrated effort this week. So I really appreciate anyone who's managing to do anything. Just the best effort you can do is more than good enough. And even if you can only push up into standing for a few seconds and sit back down again, that's better than nothing. So well done. Okay, last task then is rocking side to side. Now, if you are a bit weary, you could always sit down on the chair and repeat this in your chair. If you feel like you've had enough on your feet, you can always adapt it by kind of bringing it down a level. But if you've still got the energy to stay on your feet, then by all means stay on your feet. Again, support yourself as you need, use a stick, use a chair. Okay? So I stand straight, I stand straight. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to bring our weight over one leg, hold it there, back to the middle. And then over the other leg, hold it there and back to the middle. And make sure as you come over one leg, you really bring your weight nicely onto that side. Now, if you find this a little unsteady, you can always widen your feet a little. That will help give you a little bit more of a steady support. But just see how you go and really try not to twist your body as you move one leg onto one leg, or onto the other leg. Okay? So I bring my weight over my right leg. I bring my weight over my right leg. 1, 2, 3. It's okay if your other leg lifts a little from the floor. Don't need to lift it completely. You can if you're feeling very brave and you're very steady. And back to the middle, back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. I bring my weight over my left leg, over my left leg. 1, 2, 3. And back to the middle, back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. I bring my weight over my right leg, over my right leg. 1, 2, 3. Looking for that really nice straight line if you see all the way up my right side. And back to the middle, to the middle. 1, 2, 3. I bring my weight over my left leg, over my left leg. 1, 2, 3. Again, keep your shoulders back, your hips forward, your chin up and nice and straight. And back to the middle, back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. And then just bring your feet back to line, shoulders back, chin up, nice and straight. And I stand straight, I stand straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. Take a seat. You'll no doubt need to. But hopefully some of those standing activities and some of the moving into standing activities have been useful for you. Sorry, I overran a little bit and we did a little bit more than I expected. If it's too much, cut some out, skip ahead, go back and repeat the ones you really like. We'd love to see people joining in with these activities. We'd love to see if you're finding them useful. As I said, please comment, please share, please tweet, please do whatever you like to let people know about it. If you go to a group usually that might do activities together, please let other people know that these are here. They're free. We're going to keep adding another one each week and the levels will change in terms of the complexity of what we're doing each time. But we'd love some feedback, so please let us know what you think of them and any ideas for things you'd like to work on in future. So thanks again from Paces and Connections Neuro. We look forward to seeing you next week for session 4. Thank you for joining us. Bye.